After 5 months of the most dissimilar action that MLW has ever brought, we have finally reached the World Series, featuring the Predators and the Eagles. This is the first time that the World Series for MLW has featured no teams from the previous year's matchup, and I think that this year's matchup is set to be one for the ages. It's a matchup that I personally really wanted going into this postseason, and I think that we will get to see some talent showcased in this World Series that we either haven't seen in a long time or have never seen before at this level. So for a matchup that's got MLW buzzing, the fans on the edge of their seats, and the players ready to finish first at that finish line, it's time I do my job, take us a step back, and give an overall breakdown and analysis of this year's matchup. Let's go. It's weird to think about how much MLW has exploded in media presence since I began watching and or covering them. Hitting 100,000 subscribers not too long ago, there's a good bit of that audience that probably doesn't remember a time when the Predators were the laughingstock of the league, consistently coming up short and finishing in the cellar. And for those fans like myself that enjoy rooting for the underdog, consistently coming up with new ways to disappoint their fan base. Despite Warda putting up impressive numbers at the plate year after year, and slowly developing into a very solid ace pitcher, plus his prospects like Russell and Agner also becoming very solid wiffle ball players, the Preds just never seem to be able to put it all together and become a great team that they seem to have the potential to be. However, one move by Warda changed all that in 2018. The signing of Ryan Kratch to the Predators was, and still is in my opinion, the biggest trade in MLW history. It gave Kratch the ability to prove himself as an ace pitcher, an opportunity he never had with the Eagles because nobody is going to start over Dan, naturally. And well, Kratch would not waste that opportunity. The second half of the Predators' 2018 campaign took the whole league by storm, beating the Wildcats in a series for the first time in franchise history, and sweeping the Cobras with relative ease. But more than this, the Predators were playing with a confidence and swagger that fans and players alike just were not used to. Now, while that 2018 season still ended in a heartbreak, it set the tone for the new story the Predators were beginning to write as a franchise. The question was, would that story continue into 2019? It did. In the offseason, Warda made another golden move as manager by trimming down his lineup to his core 3 guys, himself, Kratch, and Brennan Russell. This group of veterans all clicked at the right time and dominated to a 12-3 record and number 1 in the AL going into the playoffs. However, due to health concerns over a surgery, without Brennan Russell this time, who it was announced was going to be subbed for by Harlan Smith. Nonetheless, this momentum continued into the playoffs where they swept the Cobras, the same team who had knocked them out of the playoffs in 2017 and 2018. And so, after 6 years, the Predators have finally made their way to the biggest stage in MLW. Looking to end their road of dominance are the Eastern Eagles, headed by Daniel Schultz. The Eagles are a team that have also had to undergo ridicule from the league. First was the Colts Field era, where Dan and company spent most of their time living in the Wildcats' shadow, as they would fall in the World Series to the Cats in 2010, 2014, and 2015, ultimately winning the championship in 2016, their last World Series appearance up until now. Since that championship run, the Eagles have suffered the second main criticism of having a phenomenal regular season, only to be ousted by the upstart Mallards in the NLCS in 2017 and 2018. Going into this year's NLCS, I saw it as a real must-win moment for the Eagles organization. Sure, the organization had gone through some rough times, losing a quality player in Kratch the previous year, losing Price due to injury for the rest of 2019, and having that cloud hanging over Dan's head of losing to Tommy's Mallards 2 years in a row. However, all that does not take away from how great the Eagles have performed year in and year out, and that they deserved a shot at the championship. Fortunately for Eagles faithful, they did not lose that regular season swagger in this year's NLCS, sweeping the Mallards in a dramatic fashion with a Game 1 8-inning barn burner, and having Zach Whalen steal a hit from Dabrico to put out a last-ditch comeback attempt by the Mallards in Game 2. So, like the Predators, the Eagles are a team that have had to overcome a lot to get to this title. However, unlike the Predators, this isn't Dan's first time in the World Series spotlight. Looking to win his second championship against his former teammate Ryan Cratch, there is a lot of build-up, tension, and excitement from past years going into this 2019 World Series featuring both number 1 seeds at their prime. The World Series will be the first time the Eagles and the Predators have officially played each other since May of 2018, and the first time ever that they have faced off since Cratch left the Eagles to become the Predators' ace pitcher. Since then, as previously stated, they have spent their time battling it out within their own divisions. So, how will these two teams react to each other after this long interval between seeing one another? Well, as always, it's going to come down to pitching. It's no secret who will be taking the ball mainly for each team. For the Eagles, Daniel has been phenomenal, better than ever really. He has gone 9-0 this year, only giving up 2 earned runs over 35 innings pitched. He has also made a huge improvement over 2018 by cutting down on his walks given up by pitching to a .71 whip with 85 Ks. He has his knuckle curve as his punch-out pitch, and his riser is still as troublesome as ever for hitters to catch up to, as seen in the NLCS. On the other end, Ryan Cratch has not been nearly as dominant on paper, but just as unstoppable. He also has 9 wins, but has lost 2 games as well. He is pitching to a 1.06 ERA and a 1.32 whip. As talked about on the MLW Tonight episode I was recently featured on, Cratch is my pick for MLW MVP. Not only has he been a huge key in turning the Preds organization around, but he has also been shutting teams down with a confidence really unrivaled in the league. His pitch selection and his ability to pound the zone while also missing enough to keep hitters off balance is part of what makes him such a dominant ace. Another interesting wild card on the pitching side for the Preds is Alec Warda. While he has obviously stepped down from being his team's lead pitcher, Warda has finally showed his old 2017 form again in 2019. The little he has pitched this year has been quite impressive, earning him 2 wins and 13 Ks. Now, while I'm sure they will want to keep the ball in the hands of Cratch as much as they can, having a more than reliable number 2 man is an interesting factor that may or may not come into play this World Series. The key matchup for Eagles fans will be Daniel at the plate versus Cratch. When Zach Whalen moved over to the Eagles, I thought this was a great move for both factions involved. However, I don't think Whalen has really lived up to the expectation. Until the NLCS. Whalen showed out in that series, putting up a very solid batting performance against Tommy Coughlin, and finally really playing like the player I saw the potential for him to have when he originally joined the team. However, I'm not quite confident in his ability against Cratch. Cratch's slider and lefty curve combo will be incredibly difficult for Whalen to battle against as a lefty, and while he could put some solid hits up, I see it unlikely. And as for Neil Smith, well, to put it bluntly, he's not an intimidating at bat in the slightest. While being an extremely solid fielder and having a good eye at the plate, he's not a power spot in the lineup. So while I say that Daniel is the best hitter for the Eagles, he's more than that. His hitting determines the Eagles' offensive momentum. Their bats will go as Dan's bat goes, and if Dan doesn't heat up, I foresee it being a very tough time putting runs on the board for the Eagles. So that's why I see Daniel versus Cratch being the most important matchup. If Cratch shuts down Daniel at the plate, he forces the weaker parts of the lineup to pick up the slack, and if they can't, it's going to be a quick series. As for Daniel, he faces a punishing lineup. As far as I know, it's still up in the air whether or not Brennan Russell will make an appearance at all in the World Series, but going on the assumption that he does not, Daniel will still have to face a vicious 1-2 punch of Alec Warda and Cratch. Warda has hit 6 home runs in his last 8 games and has just been electric at the plate. A lot of that, I believe, is due to his experience in the NWLA, where he got an exposure to the speed and dynamic pitching from pro wifflers in that organization. Also, being a lefty, I'm very curious to see how Daniel will go after him and if he will change his approach at all, considering how well Warda has been seeing pitches lately. With great hitting and even better pitching, it'll be interesting to see how defense will factor into this. Both of these teams play extremely well in the field, not making many errors and being very sharp on the base pass when it comes to base running. You all know how the Predators are especially incredibly aggressive on the base paths. So any base runners gained from walks or errors will also prove to be a big factor in gaining and or maintaining leads. Hitters for both teams will have to be patient and be able to put the ball in play, as I don't foresee either of these ace pitchers losing a game on walks. Key hits and low-scoring games fueled by dominant pitching and talented hitters should make this series an incredibly exhilarating one. The stage is set, fellas. Well, here we are. I think I've done a pretty good job of breaking down both sides of this matchup, giving the Predators' side and strengths and weaknesses, as well as the Eagles. And now it's time to give my pick. And fellas, for my pick, I'm taking the Pacific Predators to win it all in 2019 and take home their first championship against one of MLW's oldest powerhouses. I do expect it to be a very hard contested series, and for the Predators to outlast the Eagles in most likely a 5-game set. And there you have it, guys, my overall analysis, breakdown, and my pick. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Wiffle statement. If you did and would like to see more of what I do on this channel, then please drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on Wiffle Ball news and talk from around the country. Also, this is all just my opinion, and I'm sure you have one that very well could be different from mine. So please tell me your thoughts and takes below in the comments. I would love to know. I do hope you guys enjoyed this year's MLW World Series. I know I will. Be sure to keep up with all the action on MLW's channel and social media so you don't miss out on any of the action. That's all I got for you guys in this video. Get out there and play some Wiff, enjoy the World Series, and I will be talking to you guys soon. Goodbye.